Got it. Okay.
Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things in that fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish.
All righty. Boys and girls. Hello, hello. How's everybody? Happy to see you all. Great to be here. We're changing our open format a little bit so that we can avoid the lag between Joey and me. So what I have to do is shut down the secondary and get her up as primary. And we should be good. We are. Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. Yeah,
I woke up
in the morning.
trying to figure out the next step in the phase. You know what? When Thomas gets here today, I'm going to have him do a video. We're going to do videos of the liquidation of the shop.
Oh wow!
And show the steps and phases in doing that. I ought to do it the way you do your videos and just do a composite over a period of a month. But I think instead of that, I'll just do a daily report, a daily liquidation report.
Well, you could do that. I mean, any obviously we'll watch anything,
Well, that's kind of the issue, isn't it?
But
yes and no. We did 4 little story times 2 days ago. One of them, "Don't Bury Your Shrimp," has over 1,000 hits. The others are down around a couple of hundred, so it's high. Not a lot of traffic there. They have big movers and shakers. But I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to try to get to it today on phase 2, step 2, or volume 2, on the issue of diversity. So biodiversity in your aquarium, chapter 2, will be coming up shortly.
Okay.
That should be up. Hopefully that'll be up for the weekend.
Yeah.
Because that's just straight video and then post.
Well,
So who's here? Who's here? Who's here?
Oh boy, there's all kinds of people here. You want to say hi, or you want me to do it? Whatever.
Yeah. Hi, Chevy Fish. Chevy Fish was out of pocket yesterday, so she couldn't be with us in the morning. But we're happy to see her back, back and alert and with us. Let's see. You like this better, don't you?
Yeah.
Rather than.
Yeah. No, I like being a little small. Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Well, how about little small? We can do that. How about like that?
Okay, that's great. That's great. I like being farther away. Hello.
I'm trying to give you equal billings.
Okay. All right. I mean, thank you. Thank you. I don't know why, but thank you.
Well, let me explain why, for your benefit as well as the benefit of everybody else. Um, there are these little gems in the fish fam that become apparent every once in a while, um, and they are fish tubers who have an inordinately remarkable ability, skill, knowledge, experience, whatever of fish. And Joey is one of those. It's kind of a hidden trait with her. Richard. Okay. Okay, I'm glad you called me back then. All right. Okay, you bet. So over the last couple of months, I've come to realize that Joey has a depth of knowledge and experience with fish that that's remarkable, and that um, deserves an opportunity to be able to for her to be accessible and available. So she's here on equal footing with me,
Wow.
which is how I view this, and increasingly I think how she's viewing it, because I notice she talks over me more now than she ever did.
I'm trying not to. I think it's our leg more than anything. But anyway, thank you, Fatherfish, for that.
You're very
And
welcome.
I still try
I'm
not to
very
talk over
sincere.
you.
I'm very sincere about that.
Thank you.
Just I've
I
become
appreciate
increasingly aware of uh, of her skill, knowledge, and experience with fish, and it just makes her another voice that needs to be heard. So
it.
she's
And
not only helping me immeasurably, but also has quite a lot to offer. So
well,
so
thank you.
equal.
And I feel honored because you and I have different styles, and you're open to that. That I do some things differently, and you still allow me to talk, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
you know. So I'm just
Emily
gonna
Stevens.
yeah,
Yes,
I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
let's say some hellos, and then we'll go into I have a question for you to start with.
All right,
Um,
yeah, let me do some of this. Emily Stevens,
yeah.
Holly Gibbs, hello Holly, Jean Campbell, Stephanie Frederick, Tony P, hello Tony. Now I'm reading right now from my StreamYard list. I am not yet in YouTube.
Okay.
So in YouTube, I can see things like who has a wrench and who doesn't. I can't
Exactly.
do that on StreamYard.
Okay.
So there are some things I want to be able to do that I can't do right now because I'm in the wrong format. But um, I'm getting there, and as we're talking, as a matter of
Things
fact,
I want to
I'm
be able to
linking.
do that
I'm
I can't do
linking
right now because I'm
linking up to it, and I need to go on live chat rather than top chat because
Yes,
that makes the difference.
that
And
is
then we're
something.
here. So here we are. So now I can scroll back to 9 o'clock. I can't go
Okay.
back on that.
No, that should cover about everybody that's here going
Karuna,
back to.
Karuna Karen, Fish and Tactics, David Mann, Hat Trick Farm, Chevy Fish, John Larson, T Montano. T's not new. T's been here.
Oh no, they've been here. Yeah.
J. Oliver, Karuna Karen, Bateson Genetics, doing pretty good today. Nice to see you, Bateson. Gene Campbell, Sean Campbell.
Oh.
Who else? J Dog. I've been on the phone with J Dog
Mm-hmm.
half of the morning. Lee Wilcox. Hello, Lee. Two new accordions today. Gatekeeper Fish and Tactics and Baroness Emily Stevens. Steffens. Courtiers. Wonderful. Sure. Who else? BJ Palmer. Hello, BJ Palmer. And number one wanderer. One wanderer. Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, he said Karuna Karen. Hello again. Chris Trapp. Stephanie Frederick. I'm repeating myself. Dave D. Sam Krieger. Nicholas Grawl. 377. John Larson. Vaughn Jatan. Rosalind Clancy. George Vicarion. Hello, George. Sam Krieger. Krieger.
Krieger.
He's spelling it phonetically.
Right?
Krger. Not Krieger, I guess, but Krieger. Or Krager or Krieger.
I see.
Hey, Michelle Lucia. Hey, you want to pick it up? Tom Shepard.
Did you get Tony P?
Tony P.
Tony P.
Right
TJ's
there.
New Life. Hannah Robinson.
Rosalind Clancy.
I'm just looking. I'm scrolling myself, trying to see. Howard's here.
We're down the bottom. Greg the Guppy Guy.
Greg the Guppy Guy. Yep. And we may have missed some, and we apologize. Is it Sargay's
Right.
Aquarium? Yep.
You know what I want to do? I want to find out as new people come in. I want to ask them how they found us.
Okay. Well,
And
I
get
think you
some
may.
sense of whether there's nobody yet. Nobody with
There's a new one at 9:10. I think it is it Sarge's Aquatics.
Well, that's odd.
You could ask how they found you.
Oh yes, Sergeant Aquatics.
Yeah.
So Sarge, tell us how you got here. How did you find us?
So if you wouldn't mind telling us that, do you want to start with a question, Fatherfish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so J-Dog asks, Fatherfish, can we have a discussion on how to properly set up an emergency quarantine tank? What size, bare bottom or not, meds or salt?
Well, this is really very, very simple. An emergency tank or a hospital tank is nothing more than a clean vessel that's holding clean water. That's all it is. It can be, doesn't have to be an aquarium. Although with an aquarium you can see the fish better, perhaps. But it could be a bucket, could be a tub, could be anything. The whole idea is for it to be small enough that you can do 100% water changes without great difficulty. So, depending on the size of the fish, if it's smaller fish, a 10-gallon is really all that's needed. Obviously, if you have bigger fish, you're going to need to do something else. With bigger fish, I recommend a tub. You can buy a 40-gallon tub at Lowe's for $10 that are really nice. They're 40-gallon black tubs. They cost about $10. They got a lid. They're sturdy. You can fill them up to the brim and they won't buckle. They're really quite nice and quite effective. For a bigger fish, that's what I would do. For a small fish, a 10-gallon tank, bare bottom, nothing in it. You want something that you can dip the fish out, dump it, and fill it back up and put the fish back in. You want something that you can. And now that's if you're feeding baby fish, that's an ideal environment for baby fish. Is to have a bare bottom so that you can put the fish in, siphon out the excess, do a substantial water change. If you're dealing with 100 fish or more, little tiny fish, and you're trying to raise them all, then you need to do it that way. Obviously, if you're raising a smaller amount of fish and you want to do it naturally, then putting them in a tank that's set up with a lot of mold in it, that's going to have a lot of natural life in it, is preferable. But if you're just trying to go by the numbers, trying to get large numbers of fish up, or if you have a sick fish that you need to get it out of the tank and into its own environment quickly so you can deal with it easily, just a bare 10-gallon tank, you can put a sponge filter in it. You may need to put a heater in it to hold the temperature up. But that's it. A lid, no light. You don't need light on it. You want it covered so that so the fish won't jump. And in most cases, if you fill it halfway, that's more than enough water. You don't need to fill it all the way. Fill it halfway, treat the fish, do whatever you're doing. Do not feed the fish in that environment unless you're specifically trying to feed a fish that's not eating. That's a different issue altogether. And if you're doing that, then you ought to be putting it in a tank that's actually set up with a substrate. But if we're talking about a fish that's sick, ill, injured, needs to be separated, been beaten up, whatever it is, put it in a bare tank with nothing but a filter and a heater and leave it alone. Treat it whatever minimal way you have of doing that and give it a chance to heal. Do regular water changes. You should not have to do much in the way of water changes unless you're putting something like food or medication in it, in which case you will need to do water changes because you're going to get either an ammonia spike or you're going to make it caustic and toxic with the medication. So just kind of go at it that way. Simple is better. Simple, straightforward. Make it easy on yourself and easy on the fish. Try to create an environment that's stress free. Best way to do that is bare tank, nothing in it, clean, clear water, brand new water, no food, no medication, nothing. Unless, of course, you need to medicate.
Right. So, Sarge has found you through LRB Aquatics, through Lucas, which a lot of people, including myself,
Are still doing so. That's interesting.
found through Lucas, and I apparently are still finding you through Lucas. Yep.
That means they're reading his community page, finding the notes, because that's where the invitation was set. So thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Sarge, for coming in. We very much appreciate it.
So, Tony P has a question. It says, "Hey everyone, has anyone ever seen a fish develop its intestinal area above the spine? It's a deformity, but curious as to why it would happen."
I've never seen that.
Me either.
Sounds weird to me. How do you know?
That it's the intestinal area?
Yeah, how do you know that's what's happening? How do you know it's not an extended bladder, air bladder? I mean, just
I guess maybe if he still has the fish, maybe he could get some pictures of it or something.
yeah, you'd almost have to do a necropsy to know that.
Yeah. I mean,
Curious question. I've never seen it. Tony
if
P.
you have a batch of fish, it's not unusual, a bunch of fry that you get some that just.
These biological anomalies. Nobody really knows why they happen. It has to do with genetics, and there can be a damaged gene, there can be a mixed gene, any number of things. Frequently, in the case of deformity, it's a damaged gene. Something happens in the embryonic stage or earlier, in the earliest embryonic stage, where where when the gene coupling occurs between the male and the female, something misses and causes damage in that single gene, and that can cause a deformity. So it's pretty oddball stuff. What's interesting is that it's duplicatable. Once you have a fish that has that abnormality, if it is in fact genetic, you can breed it back to another fish, and it'll pop up again, which will give you then enough specimens to be able to begin breeding it for that deformity. And there are any number of fish that have been bred for deformity.
Absolutely.
The parrotfish is a perfect example. A parrotfish is bred for a specific mouth and body size, body shape deformity that occurred once, was found, was pulled out, was bred back, produced a few more. They were bred and created a population. So it happens. That's what really, it's not just deformity, it's any variation in color, variation in finish, body shape, body size, you name it. Any variation at all, you can take that fish, breed it back. If it's a genetic variation and not something caused by injury or environment, if it's genetic, you can breed it back, and you'll get that characteristic repeating itself in more frequently. The more you breed it back, the more frequently. That's how you get pure strains of guppies. That's precisely what that is. It's breeding for certain characteristics.
So Matthew Clayton just put into the chat that, and he's also knew that he found you through Alex. So,
Very good.
Yep, there's another
Well,
source.
that's interesting. Who is this?
Matthew Clayton at 912. Found you through Alex.
Down that far.
And then I have another question for you.
Chris Steele is new. Kevin Brown, new.
Yes, and welcome, Matthew, and anyone else that we have missed. We'll try to acknowledge as we go on.
Shane's saying he thinks he heard about us. True.
Yeah. So are you ready for another question, or are you still looking at that stuff?
Absolutely. No, go ahead.
Okay. T. Montano, if I use dog deworming powder for Hydra, how many water changes do you recommend?
Oh, boy. Well, it depends how much water you're changing. If you're doing 10%, more than if you're doing 50%. And if you're doing 100%, one is adequate. You know? I mean, it depends. Here's the thing. Think about it. Think about what you're doing. If you medicate a tank and you do a 50% water change, that means that now, instead of 100% of that water, or instead of it being at 100% strength, it is now at 50% strength. If you do a 10% water change, it's now at 90% strength. If you take 10% of that out, you're reducing the 90% by 10%, that's 9%. So it can get complicated. If you do 50%, it changes it from 50%. Now you're having the 50%, reduces it to 25% the second time you do a 50% water change. If you want to reduce that further, it'll 50% will reduce the amount of chemicals in the tank to 12% of what it was initially. So just try to keep in mind what you're doing as you go along, and divide by whatever the percentage of the water change is, in order to know how much you still got in there. Unless you do 100%, you can never get it down to zero, which is why I strongly recommend, if you can at all avoid it, that you never treat your main tank, you never treat your community system with any kind of medication. Absolutely never. I mean, unless there's an awfully good reason to do it, like you've got a sudden breakout of God knows what that's affecting, a huge portion of your fish. And by huge portion, I mean, 25 to 30%, like one out of every four fish is sick. Then you got a problem you got to deal with in the tank because you're not going to catch all those fish. And even if you do, others are going to get whatever it is. So in a case like that, you've got to treat your tank. Do it carefully. Do it judiciously. Don't just throw a handful of, terramycin or something in there and expect you're going to do anything other than start killing fish. Keep in mind, any medication you put in the tank has the potential to be toxic. If you treat excessively, it will be toxic. Someone is calling me from the United Kingdom. So we're going to put this on Fatherfish.
My baby.
Hello.
Hello, who's that?
Well, this. Hi there.
Is it
We
the court
hear you.
jester?
It's Lee.
It's the court jester. Okay. Yes, he's here. Hello,
Yes.
Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Tell Joey this. Joey, shut up.
No, you can't make me.
She said no, she won't do it.
I've got my new phone, and I just wanted to make sure you can hear me because I'm important. And get back to your nonsense now. I've tested it. It works. The phone works.
Delighted.
Everything's fine. Off you go back to your job.
Love you.
I love you. I
Bye
love you so much.
bye.
Thank
You bet. Bye bye.
Just a little prank call.
I love it. I love it. I gotta save it. I gotta save your number now. Okay, bye bye.
You got it.
This new phone,
Love you,
right?
Love you, Joey. Love you, everyone.
Yeah, love you too, Lee. If you were here, I'd probably punch you like you're my brother.
Back to work. Back to work. Back to
Hey,
work.
Bye, Lee.
not my fault, he says. Not my fault. Block, report, add to contacts.
Block. Yeah, let's block him. Just block him. Yeah.
Right.
So we're just gonna. I don't even. Can we just move on?
Absolutely.
Emily Stevens says she found you by researching deep substrate, and it took a lot of searching. So anyway,
Wow.
that's the way she found you. Took a lot of searching for deep substrate. And then we have a question. Chris Deal, who looks like it, he's new in the chat. He's not blue. Doesn't mean he's new, but he's new in the chat. I set up 3 dirty tanks following your videos, and I'm constantly battling algae issues. What did I do wrong?
Well, there are a couple of things that you can do to take care of that. Number one, make sure you've got plenty of plants in there. Keep in mind that higher order plants, stem plants, rooted plants, rhizome plants, all of those kinds of plants are better at absorbing nutrients than algae is. So you want to have enough other kinds of plants in there to be able to compete with the algae. That's number one. Number two is pay attention to the nutrition that you're putting in the tank. Now, nutrition comes in every form imaginable, but primarily it's food, whatever your food source is. So Yeah, and the most common problem is overfeeding. And you may not know you're overfeeding. Overfeeding does not mean that there is food laying on the bottom. I mean, it can mean that, but that's not um, uh, uh, the only time. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not the only way in which you can overfeed. You can overfeed by simply increasing the bio load, the amount of biological material you're putting in the tank beyond the tank's ability to assimilate it. In other words, it may be that your fish are eating every bit of food you put in there,
Right.
but when they create waste, they may be creating more waste than the rest of the life force in the tank, the plants, the substrate, and whatever are able to deal with. And you get algae as a result. That's number two. So control overfeeding. If you don't know whether or not you're overfeeding, reduce feeding by 50%. Just do it across the board. If you don't know, if you don't have a handle on it, reduce it by 50%. If I'm going to do a rabbit trail here because this is significant. If after a couple of weeks to a month you notice no difference at all, reduce it another 50%. In other words, don't treat food as the primary source of your interplay with the tank, of your involvement with the tank. It is not necessary for you to put food in that tank every single day like clockwork in order to keep it going. That does not keep the tank going. If anything, that will break it down and cause it to fail. If after a month everything looks perfectly fine, perfectly stable, decrease your feeding by 50% a third time. In other words, keep reducing the amount you're feeding until you reach a level where you feel it really is adding to the health of the tank and not simply putting an additional burden on the tank. So that's number two. Number three is to make sure your substrate, if you have an enriched substrate like dirt, make sure it is adequately capped. If you do not have an absolute minimum of 2 inches of sand on that dirt, it is not adequately capped, and you probably are having a release of nutrients coming up through the cap, entering the water column, which is the third way you create algae. Now, there are other things that can happen. Water that has a high level of nitrates or potassium or magnesium or whatever. That's less likely, less frequent a problem. But the basic ones are adequate plants. By adequate, that means 70%, 70% of the substrate should have plants in it. Controlling food, reducing it again, reducing it again. You will notice the fish then will be treating the tank as a source of nutrition rather than you putting food in as the source of nutrition, which means you're going to get a more balanced environment. And number three, making sure your nutritional foundation is adequately kept so you're not getting nutrition escaping into the water column. There, all three of which then uh, can create algae problems. So there's that convoluted answer.
Yeah, but that's what we're waiting for, is that kind of an answer. That's why we're here. So I'm just gonna, as we go along, if people have commented about how they found you, I'm just gonna add those in between questions. Howard says he found you because you appeared on a list of videos way back when. And there was another one that said, I found, obviously a couple of people have looked at the deep substrate. One,
So all of
BJ,
these are YouTube. People have
yep,
found me through YouTube, not
yes.
through Facebook or
No,
something
right.
else.
They're not saying that. It's all through either coming up on the list from other people. Like somebody just mentioned that Fish from Fever had mentioned you at one point. BJ Palmer says, saw you last summer talking about, deshelled baby brine shrimp cyst and how to raise those the inexpensive way instead of the fancy hatchery. So it's all, but I would say yes, so far it's YouTube related, through either coming up
Yeah.
or being
Okay.
mentioned by another YouTuber. That's what we're seeing so far. I'll try to keep track as we go along, see if I see anything different. I may have missed something. So Bates and Genetics has a question. Fatherfish, my Jack Dempsey's are locking lips softly. Then one is going to a clean pot and shudderings, shaking, all weird when it does. Sound like reading?
I need to read that. Where
Yeah.
is it?
It's at 921, Bates and Genetics.
My Jack Dempsey's are lip locking. Then one is going to clean a spot and shaking. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely breeding behavior. And it
Right.
sounds like you got a pair. So good luck with that. I hope it works
Yeah.
out. Jack
Yes.
Dempsey's and if you can keep them in a tank by themselves, if they are not and you want to do that, feel free to move them. They will pick up
Mm-hmm.
the same behavior. They send them back a day or two. But, if they're pair bonding, they're going to do it wherever they're put. If you can get them in a tank by themselves, it's going to be a much nicer experience for you and them because they'll be able to raise their babies without a lot of competition.
Okay. So, all right, I have another question, but I just would like to acknowledge Chevy Fish for being in here and working hard and dropping links, and also Monster Fish Gal Lori for being in here. They're both in here working hard, dropping links today, and we appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
greeting everyone. Thank you so much.
Deeply, 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 deeply appreciate you, both of you, very, very much.
Absolutely.
Let's, Chris Steele,
Emilio, oh, you got something?
just adding some moderators. I just gave
Oh,
Chris Steele
yes, and there are a few people that are in here that could use a wrench. Do you want to just stop and do that for a minute, or do you want to just go on to another question?
I'm doing it. I'm okay. One of
Okay.
one.
Okay. So Emilio's Fatherfish, what do you think about no water change?
What do I think about it? I think about I think that how can I put this nicely? I think it ought to be the norm. It ought to be the norm. It ought to be that you only do a water change when there is a need, a reason, other than I do it every Saturday. That's not a reason to do a water change. You know, a reason to do a water change would be to rebalance the water parameters coming out of your faucet, to reestablish those parameters. If, for example, your pH has dropped precipitously to like your pH coming out of the tap, let's say it's 7.5, and the pH in your tank is 6.5, I would do a water change. I would not do a major water change. I would do 10% check it. If it goes up a degree or two, do it again in a week or in 2 or 3 days. Try to get the water so that it is virtually the same as the water coming out of your tap. Basically, what you want to do is you want your fish living in your water. Stephen's talked about this. Now, Stephen, the biologist, has water coming out of his tap at 6.0. Honest to God, if that were me, I'd be throwing carbonates in the water. But he doesn't do that because he's following the rule judiciously, absolutely and vigorously. He takes the time to acclimate his fish. Now, what does that mean? That means a minimum of 2 or 3 days. An hour or two does not acclimate the fish. It takes days to acclimate a fish to a lower pH. Don't try to do it quick and dirty because you'll kill the fish or stress it out terribly. If you need to do that, do it very gradually, very slowly over an extended period of time. I mean, if you take a week to a month, that's not too long. Somebody just dropped a $10 super chat. Christine. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you
A
so
super
much.
sticker. Thank you very much, Chris. And what is that? Oh, he's got a bug. A picture of a bug, an old
Looks like
one. That's
Volkswagen Beetle. Yep.
a VW beetle. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. We've had plenty of those over the years.
In the rain, it looks like. Neat.
Are
Mario
you?
Rodriguez is saying my water pH is 7.4. I think
Yeah.
that's really that means you got enough carbonates in there that it should be able to hold steady. Um, if it starts to go down, then do a little water change. I use pH as the gauge. Once in a great while, I will test for general hardness. I do not, as a rule, because I do not find that general hardness accelerate having it going up creates a problem. It takes so long to get it up to a toxic level that it's almost not worth checking. Now, having said that, Stephen's not on today, but his laboratory did a series. They did a study on the impact of general hardness on fish, and they found that there was an effect as general hardness increased. I've not noticed because it's something that happens very slowly and very gradually. I've not really noticed that it becomes a problem, uh, except over the very long haul. Maybe if you check it once a year, once every 6 months, to see where it's at, and it's substantially higher. I remember the last time I checked one of my systems, the GH was at 400, and that kind of freaked me out. The fish were not showing any stress, but I did a substantial water change, got it down to about 200. It's probably back up again by now. That was about a year ago. Oh, here he is. Um,
Here's
he
who.
said he recommends frequent water changes if you do not have a planted or deep substrate tank. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
yes, the most common method I use is a 4-day process of acclimating and monitoring, even 5 or 6. Yeah. So yeah, if when I give recommendations, it's based on a system that's set up with a deep substrate and lots of plants. If that's not what you have, then my advice is going to be less valuable in terms of things like water changes. It will always be valuable in terms of overfeeding. because I am absolute death on overfeeding.
So Chris Trapp wants to know, does Fatherfish ever treat his tanks with salt?
No, I don't. And the reason I don't is because I have very hard alkaline water. There's really no need to. I mean, my water is so hard that nearite snails breed and the eggs hatch. That's how hard my water is. So it's kind of meaningless. The only time I will use salt, and I don't use like table salt or whatever. I use Epsom salts because I like the magnesium because it has other effects, particularly on things like bacteria. But routinely, no, I don't because I don't need to. You may need to. You may
Mm-hmm.
need to get your hardness up. If you have very soft water, and you don't want to acclimate to that, you may need to. The recommendation, the recommendation is that you try to get your fish living in your water, whatever that is. And Stephen has talked about this any number of times, as have I. But he has to go through an extensive acclimation to get his fish to adapt to the 6.0 that, well, I'm getting a lot of phone calls today. Lou Foxwell. Yes. I've not checked it this morning. Um, it's been running about 150 over 80. No, I did not. No. No, I'm not. Symptoms? No. I did yesterday. In the morning, I walked for a short distance, and excuse me, I'm on a live stream. I'm gonna Joey take over for a minute.
Well, I didn't want to talk too loud if you were on the phone, but okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
Um,
So,
I
Phyllis, thank you for your.
what it was. It felt like an episode.
I just noticed that. And the next thing I had to do for him was to read a statement saying where someone had found him. So I'm not prepared to be up here, and I don't have a question to answer for myself. So I'm just looking down here because I wasn't prepared to do this. So anyway, I'm going to scroll ahead. I'm going to just bear with me. I'm going to make a timestamp of something that I was going to do for him, and I'm just going to scroll down through and see what we might have here. You know what I was thinking of when he was back on the question? One of the first questions of the day when I think it was J Dog had asked about setting up an emergency quarantine tank. And one of the things I was going to add to that, but we just got rolling into other things, was the problem sometimes with an actual quarantine tank is they turn into real tanks. And that's sort of how the multi-tank syndrome keeps building. But if that's something you don't want to happen, I do go with what Fatherfish said, using a tub. And truthfully, my quarantine tub is on the floor. So I'm not tempted to do anything special with it. It hasn't become, one of my tanks. And I mean, you just hear it over and over and over again, how the quarantine tank became another tank. Then they had to set up another quarantine tank. So anyway, if you don't want that to happen, I definitely recommend the tub and keeping it in a place where it's not special. I literally have mine on the floor. So I'm not tempted to decorate it or do anything fancy with it. So, okay, bear with me because I'm scrolling down. And that was just something I thought I'd throw in my 2 cents into that. And perfectly balanced tank.
Okay.
And I'll bet there are a lot of people in this chat today that have that problem, the quarantine tank turned into a tank. I guess it's only a problem if it is a problem. you know, you can never have too many tanks, right?
All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, what got me into the hobby? Joe Merchant asked me that. I was a kid, and my dad was an antique dealer, and he used to buy out estates along with many other things. But he would very often, you know, just go buy an estate, and they would bring everything back and put it in one of the sheds. So, you know, as a kid, he had a shop where he could restore things, and eventually became somebody that was really good at restoring paintings. But anyway, they would bring in lots, and I would just go out and kick around in the shed and see what I could see. And one day he brought in a box of shells and he put them on a top shelf. So I was really curious about those, and probably stacked up a bunch of things and got up and was digging through the shells. And I wanted him to give me these shells. And I realize now, as an older woman, my dad would drag his feet and just do it to just because, you know, make us wait for something. So he made me wait probably a week or two to give me a shell. But anyway, in that lot, I found a fish tank. And it was, you know, one of the old stainless steel fish tanks with the slate bottom. And it was probably about a 3-gallon tank. And I don't know how long I had to work on him to give me that fish tank, but he finally gave me the fish tank. And I was probably like maybe 10, 9 or 10. And I that was my first fish tank that I set up. And that's what got me going on fish. And my first fish was I went in and bought one black molly, and it turns out I bought a female because the next day I had like 20 babies. And I was just amazed. And it was the most amazing thing for me. And I guess that got me hooked. But I've been doing it ever since. And I opened a store when I was 19 years old. I've been married a year, opened a store, had it for 6 years, had 2 kids, and just couldn't keep it. But anyway, that's my quick spiel. And now we're going to let Fatherfish go back to
That's fun. That's fun.
what he's doing, you know. Anyway, I
Yeah,
had
we've all got
let me,
those great, wonderful stories. They're
yeah,
just great stories, and all
yeah,
of
and
us.
I think, yeah, like you said, most people have a story. Everybody got into it somehow. All right, I'm just scrolling back. Did our volume just get messed up?
No,
Are you
we're
still
okay.
okay? All right.
We're okay.
Okay, so at 9:33, I had something. I think I had a statement that I wanted to read to you. Oh, Tam Shepard. Um, she said, she said, when nothing that we were doing was helping us to grow plants, we found Father Fish looking around on YouTube, and now I'm getting ready to set up my first dirted tank. That's
All
awesome,
right.
Tam. Awesome. And those are the
Good job.
testimonials they're great, you know, that people are either doing it and being successful, or it sounds like the thing to do and they want to try it. I mean, that's the way to go. And then Von Jaton says, do you think pygmy corridors and cardinal tetras would eat cherry shrimp?
Well, they'll both eat babies.
Right.
Keep in mind what I said the other day. If you haven't heard this, let me say it again. This is really important. Crustacea. Shrimp are a crustacea. Now, what does that mean? That means they have an exoskeleton. That means it'll have bones. Instead of bones, they have an external shell. And that external shell is what allows them to move. You know, with animals that have bones, it's the bones that allow them to move. For crustacea, it's the hard shell that allows them to move. Now, there's a problem with an exoskeleton animal. And the problem is the exoskeleton because it's hard. And as the animal eats and grows, it becomes bigger inside that shell. So what happens? It
Mm-hmm.
it it has a skin inside the shell. That skin is pushing against the shell because the body mass is increasing. It's getting bigger in the shell until the shell breaks, and it typically will break at a specific point. The point where it breaks is at a joint, where two parts of the shell come together, where it moves. It's got flexibility, and what's between those two shells is something a little less hard, a little softer, that's more malleable, and that's where it'll break. And then the shell will separate and it'll come out. It'll actually emerge from that shell, leaving the old husk behind. And it'll be almost 50% bigger than the original shell. It'll start taking in water, puffing up, getting bigger. It'll be amazed how much bigger it is than the shell it was in, because it's taken in a bunch of water in its body. It's puffed itself up. Now, at that stage, that crustacea, its external shell, if you will, is very soft. And it is, in a sense, it is bleeding. That is, it's releasing material, slime or whatever, from inside the shell that fish in the area pick up on. They smell it and they start looking around. Ooh, wow, there's food somewhere. And they follow that source. It's like a shark detecting a drop of blood in the ocean. They detect it, they smell it, they follow it, and they get right down to where the shrimp is, and they nip at its fin, and the fin comes off. And they nip at another fin, and that fin comes off. They nip at the whatever its feelers are, its eyes. They begin nipping at the underbelly until they completely consume it, until they eat it up.
They're calling.
I think it's Lee, but it shouldn't be. Yeah. Hello. Fatherfish did it. Fatherfish.
Stop calling me.
Fatherfish. Fatherfish. We got any fatherfish here? Don't know no fatherfish. Ain't got no fatherfish here.
Fatherfish. Stop calling me, Lee.
Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys know fatherfish. Hey, you down there at the end of the bar. Who did fatherfish? Ain't no fatherfish here. Ain't no fatherfish here.
He must be really bored.
No fatherfish. So I thought I saved this number under your name.
Just gonna have to hang up on him.
Knock
him off.
I want to do a video of the.
Lee, what are you going through? You've got some issues.
And we'll do a daily, or whenever we do anything significant.
Oh my!
Here's where we are today.
Don't gibberish, Lee. All of it.
I'm sucking out the goldfish ones right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Bye. Bye-bye.
Hola. Hola. Bye-bye. Craziness.
I know. All right. Can we go to another question? Because
please, we need to do something.
I mean, you know, the shrimp escaped, and yes, they want to eat them for sure. So, Jada,
yes. Well, here's the point. Here's the point. Just to tie this up, if you have shrimp with fish, at some point in time, if those fish are healthy, they're going to shed. It's called shedding or sloughing. There are probably other words for it. And what they do, every fish in that tank is going to know it, and they're going to be looking for it. And if they can find it, they're going to eat it. So,
because it's soft.
Even though babies all disappear, the adults will too at that point in their life cycle. Go.
Yeah. Okay. So, you ready?
Go for it.
J-Dog. He's full of questions today. J-Dog. The color is coming. The color is coming out. What?
He started my life off that way.
All right. He says the color is coming off my gravel. It was black. Now some of it is turning white. Is that toxic to the fish?
It's probably bacteria.
Well, no, I know what he's saying. The enamel is coming off. They just crush rock and then I think it's sprayed with enamel paint or whatever they do for the process, and it's coming off into the water. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Will you answer it then?
I mean, I don't have any technical experience with it, but I have had it. I've seen it. I've had it happen in my tank. I haven't had it cause any problems that I know of. I haven't had any problems in the couple tanks that I had gravel in originally. And I just do occasional water changes. I personally have not had a problem with it. If you're worried about it, cap it with some sand.
Right.
Trap it in there, do some water changes. I think you'll probably be okay. That's where I'm coming from on it. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the gravel is I think it is. Is it baked? Is it enamel paint that they use? I mean, they use a process and it is sprayed. That's why when it starts coming off, it gets down to the original rock, which is probably just a quartz that they crushed, and then they've painted it whatever color it's going to be. It may be baked on, but I think it's enamel, isn't it? That's on that stone.
You're talking about gravel?
I'm talking about gravel when they paint, whatever they do to color the gravel. I think it's enamel and it's baked, isn't it? I could be wrong, but
I have no idea.
I think it's that.
I don't know.
Because when it starts to come off, it does turn white. Like I said, it just goes back to whatever the matrix was or whatever stone, which I assume is quartz, which is why it's white.
Whatever it is, it's a cheap process. It's
right.
cheap. It's one more reason to never use gravel in a fish tank.
Right.
You want the long and the short of it is that if you're putting gravel in your tank, you're playing Russian roulette with your fish. It's really that simple.
Yeah. But instead of tearing your tank down, if you're worried about it, I would just cap it. I think
2 inches of sand. Right, absolutely.
So you've got another Hydra question. It's from Trung. It says, sorry for my question again about Hydra. My new 20 gallons still no livestock, 2 weeks old, but Hydra it's got a lot of Hydra. It's insane. Any advice for my case? Maybe you need to read that. It's 941, Trung.
Okay, I'm doing wrenches here. Incoming hit the dirt.
Yeah, they've been here so many times and somehow.
And they don't have a wrench. They do now.
I think we tried,
also,
but
Kevin Brown.
Yes, and actually, if you go to Trung at 941 and look at the question, you can give them a wrench too, as well.
Yes, David Fellows just gave him a
super chat. Oh yeah, I thanked you for that when you were on the phone. But yes, you can put that up. Yeah. Yes.
Let me find that here.
So, yep, toss that up, and then if you can go back to 941, you can give Trung the wrench and answer the question possibly.
All right, let me hold on a second. I'm scrolling. I can't get back far enough.
You can't?
No, I can only go. Well, I can probably do it on YouTube, but I can't post,
you can get back
I can't post David Fellows $1.99. My apologies.
Okay. But thank you, David, again.
I'm just can't get back far enough. 9:40.
You meant because you're on the phone, but I saw it. But I, of course, couldn't post
Chris
it.
Steele. We did Chris, right?
Yes, I think so.
At 9:41.
So do you see?
Trung. Okay, I've got Trung.
Yeah, so you can give him a wrench and then maybe answer the question. I'm going to keep scrolling.
Okay, sorry for my question again. 20 gallons tank, still no livestock, 2 weeks old, hydro got a lot insane. Uh, Frankly, Trung, I don't know how you could have Hydra uh, going out, going, increasing unless you got food in there. You got to have some kind of nutrition. They don't grow on air. There's something in there they're feeding on. You're saying that there's no livestock.
Right.
Are you putting brine shrimp in? Do you have a Daphne culture? Are there scuds? Something is happening in there that they're feeding on. It might be microscopic. I mean, are you building a biological microscopic base? Something's happening that's causing them to continue to flourish. They ain't doing it on their own. You need to figure out what you're putting in there or what is already in there that they're feeding on, because it's got to be something.
Mm-hmm. So you have a question from Gary Allen. It's Fatherfish. It's my first time raising koi fry, and I was wondering if it's necessary to remove uneaten food and waste. If I was doing water changes of 50% or more twice daily, I'm afraid to suck up and lose fry.
What you want to do is when you're siphoning, put a net over the container you're siphoning into, and any fry that come up will get caught in that net. So you want to find enough mesh net, like a very fine mesh net. It's also going to catch food, so you don't want to just dump it back in. You want to remove that baby fish. And what you might need to do is put it in a separate container and use some kind of a syringe to or a siphon to suck up that baby and not get the waste in. But use a net, siphon into a net. That'll allow you to keep the uh, keep the baby from going into your waste container.
Yeah. Um, so BJ Palmer says, my water is 6.0, water out of the tap. From a well 12 months ago, it was 7.2, 7.4. There was construction within my site, and my water immediately changed. The water table is
Well,
very high here.
huh?
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
And it does affect water flows when they start digging other
Yeah.
wells and doing things.
So it's
Yep.
a shallow well. He's got a shallow well, and
Yeah.
something happened to affect the water table, or affect the flow of the water. It may have affected a little underground underground stream or something. Um, so you're going to have to make a decision as to what you want to do, whether you want to acclimate your fish to that or not. Um,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. I've had that happen though. I had that happen years ago. I was raising, I don't know what they were, some severum. I was raising severum, and all of a sudden they started getting sick and dying. And I got a vet out, and he looked at it. He gave him shots. Nothing, didn't help. I finally started. I tested the water for hardness, and found that it had gone from hard to soft. It had gone from a pH of 7.5 to a pH of 6. So I called the water company and said, "What's going on?" They said, "Oh, we just bought water. We just bought water from Manatee County that comes off Manatee Lake." So they went from deep well water, 600-foot wells, to surface water went from a pH of 7.5 to a pH of 6.0, a hardness of 120 ppm to a hardness of 2, without notifying anybody, figuring, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Water's water. This is the professional water company responsible for delivering water to 500,000 people. No notification, no nothing. Just all of a sudden one day it goes from 7.5 to 6.0. Insane.
Yeah. Right.
Totally insane. But it happens. And it happens with greater regularity than you might otherwise expect. So I do track pH. And if I see any kind of, one of the things I've learned is if you start to see red at the base of the fins on a fish, right where the fin goes into the body, if you start to see red there, that's a really good sign that there is a dramatic drop in pH that is causing the fish to bleed out. So take that very seriously. Check your pH and make sure that's not what the problem is, or if it is, that you deal with it accordingly. So, I'm sorry you're dealing with this issue. You're going to have to decide whether you want to acclimate your fish to 6.0 and talk to Stephen about this. Get over on Discord and have an extended, protracted conversation, if need be, about how to acclimate your fish. It may be too late. They may be in it already. But check it out and see what's going on.
Okay. Susan's asking me a question. Susan for SLC Aquatics, about this tank. First off, do you mind if I take a second and talk about it? And then
Please do. Go right ahead.
I'm wondering if I should tell the truth, because she's asking me, Hattrick Farm, how did you start your goldfish tank? Fish first or decor? Okay, so I am going to tell the truth. I literally set my tank up, threw all my stuff in, threw in my plants. I didn't have the Anubias at first, so I just threw in a few plastic plants, because, goldfish can be rough on plants, and threw in my rocks, set up my decor, put my filter on, grabbed a seeded filter, ran it all through my water column, and added my fish. But I do crazy things. I'm not recommending that you do that, but I do things like that. And that's 100% the truth. That's how I did it. Just used a seeded filter and went for it.
Now, here's the key. You can do that if you do not start throwing a lot of food in the tank, because you have to give the nitrates time to build up, the nitrification process, in order to be able to deal with that excess protein or excess waste. Or you wind up with a huge ammonia spike that'll burn the fish.
Yeah.
So you can put fish in brand new water and they will be absolutely fine, so long as you're not throwing so much excess biodegradable material in there that you're affecting the ammonia level.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not necessarily recommending people do it, but you asked me what I did, and I told you the truth.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
I do it all the time. I set a tank up and just do what I do and throw my fish in, All right, so I'm looking for another question for you. Chris Steele saying, be sure to buy Fatherfish's supplements for your dirted tank. Yes, you can get them on Get Gills. He sells them. If you go to the Fatherfish store, you can buy his supplements. And I believe the bag you send out is good for a 100-gallon tank, up to 100 gallons.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
supplement
You can
for
use
that?
it. You can use it for more, but you know, it's a matter of kind of using less. It's up to you. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Um, okay, Lucky 38 says, Fatherfish, with regards to the Wallstead tanks, when do you know that the substrate has lost its nutritional value and needs to be replaced? Should I vacuum excess detritus in my tanks? Or you say detritus?
Detritus is the right word.
Okay, well,
I
I
just,
said, okay, I say detritus, but some people say detritus. I say detritus.
yeah, it does have two T's in it. Um, okay, that's kind of a compound question.
Yeah, it's not a straight question.
Let's deal
That'll
with the
keep you busy.
detritus first.
That'll keep you busy. Oh, and then below it says I got a 3-year-old Wallstead tank right now. Okay.
If you have detritus, then you need to add an inch of sand because the sand bed has become essentially clogged with detritus on its way through to the bottom. Add an inch of sand, and that mulch should disappear very quickly in a day or two. And that should be enough to keep the system going. That deals with the detritus issue. The other issue is the question, what happens when your deep substrate runs out of material? It may be that it's blocked. You know, the inch of sand may well solve that problem to get more of the detritus down into it. Um, the way you notice it is if the plants basically stop growing. If you're not getting plant growth, the only reason that would happen in an old tank is if you did not have fish in it or had only one or two little tiny fish and we're not feeding at all. In other words, if the system had reached stasis where there was very little actual biological activity going on, because an old substrate, an old tank, should be cycling, and it should have been cycling for a long enough period of time for material that was put in there a year ago to now be available and accessible to the plants as nutrition. The cycle is not fast, it's slow. It is impossibly slow. So when you're setting up a deep substrate tank, you're setting it up for the millennium. You're you're setting it up for a decade, not for 6 months or a year. If 6 months for a year is all you need, you don't need to go through it. Just throw some gravel in it and siphon it out once every month. If you're trying to set up a tank that's going to last for 5 to 10 years, then you need to do that deep substrate. And getting after a year or two, then it'll be effectively cycling. So you kind of have to look back. If you're not getting plant growth, it may be something that happened a year ago where things were just languishing and not, not moving along. You can always put nutrition. You can push some frozen dirt cubes or some uh, fertilizer pellets all the way down to the glass down in the bottom. You can do that kind of thing. Don't do it frequently. I mean, if you do that, do it maybe every 6 months. Don't do it every week or every month, even. You do it very, very rarely.
Okay.
So the answer is the sand bell.
The sand belt. We haven't heard the sand belt for a while. Why am I getting an echo?
Ah.
Ultra Magic just had, an interesting statement. It says, Father Fish, you should have a lot more subscribers for giving honest, experienced advice without all the gimmicks and the theatrics. What's up with YouTube algorithms? I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
agree.
find
What
it
is
very
it?
strange. I find it actually a little disheartening because what
Yeah.
typically happens is completely out of the blue, as a result of nothing that I do, I will post a video, or in one case, a video I posted 6 months prior to that will suddenly go viral. It'll go boom. There'll be 10,000 hits on it in a matter of a day or 2 or 3 days. 10,000 hits. And it'll go, and then one or two other videos will pick up, and I'll start picking up a lot of subscribers. I'll get huge hits every day, and that'll go on for like a week, and it'll feel like I'm on the way, and then it'll stop, and it'll go in reverse, and the absolute opposite will happen, and it'll drop back down essentially to where it was with a moderate increase for the next 2 weeks. So it's a roller coaster. And I don't understand what that's got to do with any kind of algorithm. It doesn't make a bit of sense to me. The only way I can figure it out is that that activity gets the notice of whoever they are who determine whether you're going to grow or not. And they said, when they say, uh-oh, press the button on that one. He's getting too big. And they press the button and it dips. I mean, why else would that happen? Explain it to me, somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's happened 3 times now. Exact same thing, 3 times, each time over a period of 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months later, bang. It rockets up, reaches a zenith, and then bang, all the way back down. Just as fast as it went up. And I make serious efforts to keep it up. Nothing makes any difference. They say increase and improve the quality of your videos. I do that. Doesn't have anything to do with that. They say, Dad, more of these, of the 10 things to do. I do that. Has nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with anything I do. It's purely got to do with external forces playing games with my channel. And I don't like it at all. The 5th phone call this morning. The 5th.
Counting, right? I'm just going to answer Rohan.
Do I sell what? I'm sorry.
I don't ever touch the substrate. I do
Yeah,
water
I got
change,
my work slides. Yes.
but I never touch the substrate. The only ones that touch it are the goldfish themselves, and they
No.
only
They're half an inch long.
probably mess in the first quarter of an inch, half an inch of that substrate, and they don't take that. So anyway, if that helps. And then
You have a what?
A salamander.
Oh. Yeah. How big is he?
He's a baby, like 1.5 inches long. I know it's too small technically to own one that big or to buy one that big, but I didn't know that until after the fact. So
It's okay. Come get the black worms. They'll be perfect.
Okay, I will be there as soon as I get off work in a couple hours.
Okay. You bet.
so,
She has a baby salamander.
Yeah.
We sell black worms. The salamander's 1.5 inches long. So the black worms will be absolutely perfect.
Perfect. So you got the solution. So you're good. So let's move on to well, and and I think Tisha. Yeah, we keep getting comments on how people find you. I think Tisha said I'm not looking at it, but she was maybe researching the Wallstead method or dirted tanks because she'd had it with the regular tank. So it's similar feedback that you're getting for the way people found you. Anyway, Nicholas Grawl has a question. He says, are fish more likely to breed in a species-only tank? I have 12 minnows in a 20-gallon. Are they more likely to breed since it's just them?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Just trying to think.
I agree with that.
You know, breeding is really a function of the fish being healthy. If they're healthy,
Yeah.
if they're healthy, they will spawn. And healthy, because healthy is an indication of them being in water that they like, with a nutrition level they like, with other people they like to be with. And I'm
And
just
they're mature enough to breed.
having a good old time.
Right.
And it just, you know, it's a perfectly natural process to occur in nature for things to multiply. It is what is normal. So if your fish never breed, and keep in mind, you may never notice them breeding.
Exactly.
With fish like tetras, for example, they very many of them will breed right at dawn or dusk. You may never see it because they don't do a whole lot that's really unusual. They're spewing out their eggs and spewing out their sperm as they go about their day. Almost. You know, not a lot of unusual behavior for certain kinds of fish.
Yeah. I think you know, you said it. If they're happy, they're healthy, they're sexually mature, they're going to breed whether you see it or not. The challenge for you is collecting the eggs.
Yeah,
and hatching them.
that's right.
If that's what you want. Because they, you know, you won't get a lot that probably survive because you'd have to have a really heavily planted tank for them to, you know, sort of community breed.
Yeah, exactly.
They're breeding, as you said, they're all breeding and doing this thing.
Right. Right.
So I'm just laughing because BJ Palmer says, how was I 28 minutes behind?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Somebody,
it's easy to do.
yeah.
I do it every day. Every day.
Yeah, just behind my home. Somebody just became a member of Fatherfish. Do you see that? I can't see who it is, but I can see that you have a new member. It's not showing to my.
BJ Palmer.
Okay,
and
so that's showing who it is for me.
1028.
Yeah.
Right there.
Thank you. Thank
Hey,
you.
BJ, thank you so much.
You for joining
BJ
me.
Palmer.
That helps out Fatherfish for sure.
You bet. It all helps, guys. It all helps.
That helps him. Oh, I'm looking at it. Just Chan says, I found this channel as a new fish keeper. It's been very helpful, and I really like Fatherfish's philosophies. That's nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Stephen is inviting BJ over to Discord. Make sure you check that out, BJ. And in order to get on Discord, we recommend you become a supporting member in whatever way you are able to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be increasingly important as we go along, because we no longer are going to have the store as a support. Not that it provides a support, because frankly it doesn't, but it's at least a moral support.
Well, and it has at times potential. A lot of people in here encouraging people to hit the like button. Could you do that for Fatherfish, please?
Yeah. Also, while we're at it, if you are on the channel, make sure you click on the bell, because the bell allows us to notify you when we have something up. If you don't do that, you will never know when we post. If you click on the bell, um, and hit the top of the 3 items to receive notifications on everything, then you will be notified, presumably, whenever we post. So try to remember to do that as well. And if you are able, share. Sharing gets us out to more new people. And that's really how we grow to reaching new people. So
Yeah.
a lot of that's up to you to share us with family and friends, if you will.
Yeah. Are you still in YouTube? Can you still pass out any wrenches, or are you?
Yeah. I'm just noticing we've got 94 watching,
Yeah.
65 thumbs up.
That's why I was like, and people keep mentioning in the chat to hit the like button, but if you could, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Please do.
So
Tommy McNeil.
I'm looking at bows and barrels. Fatherfish, he's been here many times at 1016. Could you give them a wrench?
Yeah.
They also just had a quick question. Can plecos be in a sand substrate?
Bowls, barrels.
Bows and barrels at 1016. You'll see them because they're not blue.
I got it. They are now.
HB is right below them, and they are not blue.
HB, who loves the word detritus. It's a great word, isn't it?
Detritus in the morning.
Absolutely. Detritus in the morning, right? There should always be detritus in the morning. The nature of the beast.
That's right. If everything's going well,
Right.
Oh, and again, we apologize because you cannot address every question, and I'm sorry for that. And we missed some, and not intentionally.
If we miss you, repost your question because we're trying to stick to the bottom. Not that we're doing a great job of that.
I can't.
But nevertheless,
it's what we would like to do, but I just cannot. We can't because we get on questions and then the chat keeps telling me we're stopped, and and there's so many new people in here. Robert's here, Tianaqua, Skippers is here, Herp Diversity.
Florida test. Do we need to ask again? Well, apparently.
Tommy
ask again.
Yeah.
Ask again, Florida test.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to the bottom, and if you could ask again, that'd be great, because like I said, when he starts answering and we start stopping, it's hard. Yeah,
exactly. There's Laurie. Hey, Laurie. All you new guys, if you could tell us, please, how you found us. We're trying to track what we need to do what we're doing to reach people and how we can improve that.
Yeah. But I think you're right. Pretty much everybody that I have seen in here that's mentioned, it's been through YouTube. It hasn't been through any other platform. There's no other platform.
Well, I'm not really on any other platform.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't say they found you on Facebook or anything like that, or it's all through YouTube. If you're still passing at wrenches, Tommy at McNeil at 1028. Is not blue. Oh, you just got him. Yeah, you got him. Okay. And can you do honey?
I did.
Irina? Okay.
Yeah.
They searched enough topics and they finally found you. Oh, Katie McNeil, thank you for the super chat.
Got it, Katie Mitchell.
Mitchell. I said McNeil. Mitchell.
Where is it now?
Ultramagnetic foundation searching substrate on Lucas's channel. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is your dirted substrates bringing them in.
Huh. That's interesting. So I need to post more videos called dirted substrate.
Because I really think that overall that's the overall consensus today either through the Wallstead method, the dirted substrate, deep substrate, whatever, they're finding you that way. Oh,
Hannah
glass
Arena.
box? Yeah.
Hannah Arena W. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, Big J. And Glassbox found you through algae is your bestie.
Well, that's
through
funny. That was 6 months ago.
Nice.
Yep.
Um,
Katie Mitchell.
and then sometimes, if you are on other channels, they have things, they will throw things up that are similar. Yeah, I've had that happen too. That's how I've found other people. So, and I'm looking to see if there are any actual questions, because we're just talking about that. Do you see a question from the fish? I'm looking, I don't see. Oh,
No.
Rohan, how much and how often do microworms, wait a minute.
Do what?
How much, I'm trying to make sense of Rohan's question. How much and how often microworms I need to feed 1-inch platies? So I guess he wants to know how often to feed his platies microworms. What do you suggest?
Well, microworms are kind of interesting. It's a nematode. It's actually not a nematode. It's an annelid. Not that I understand the difference, because I don't.
Me either. I just feed them to my fish. I grow them, I feed them.
I like them. You can feed them every day. Did I say that? Did I say that?
Oh.
You
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Say that louder.
Live food is the exception, provided it can stay live, and microworms in the tank will not die. They won't drown.
Right.
They will live. They'll go down in the substrate. They will eventually all be eaten up, but they will live in the tank. So you can feed microworm every day.
Yes. So
okay, here now wait, let me back up. I don't recommend it because whenever you feed microworm, you're also you're also putting some of the culture that they are in the tank, whether it's yeast or some other kind of bacteria material, whatever it is, that's going in the tank as well. So by doing that, you're increasing the bio load. The amount that you put in is typically minuscule. It's hard to put a tablespoon of microworm in a tank. It is an extremely tiny amount. So the likelihood of actually causing a problem is down around 0.
Yeah.
So I would feel comfortable and perfectly safe feeding microworm culture every day, particularly if you have tiny fish. They will love it. It'll also be good for all the other microscopic life in your tank. It won't be food just for the fish. It'll be food for lots of other things as well.
Absolutely. So, Fatherfish, can you explain? Tommy McNeil is asking, what does it mean to be blue? Can you explain why you give the wrenches and how it could be used?
Well, it allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to post your link and to post other links. It also gives you priority access to Discord, because it brings you into the family. It means you've been acknowledged as someone who is interested in what we're doing, participating. Usually we don't give the wrenches out until somebody's been here a few times. There are times when I just get excited and pass them out kind of indiscriminately.
Because you ask a good question and you get one.
Exactly. It's not completely indiscriminate.
Right.
It's because demonstrated an interest in the channel that has reached me in a way that says, aha, this is
Aha.
somebody I want to be able to be in communication with routinely, and who I want to feel that they are a part of the family.
Yes.
So there's that. It allows you to post links. What it does not do, it does not allow you to knock anybody else off. You don't have that level of moderator unless it's a brand new person. And why would anybody do that? Um, there's a third reason. It helps us to see very quickly and easily who the new people are coming in.
Yes.
So we can be sure to greet them, to say hello to them, to get to know them a little better. So it works in a couple of different ways. Um, and we use it simply because it's an easy way for us to be able to designate um, people who we want to acknowledge as friends of the channel.
Yes.
That is not the reason the wrench was set up by YouTube. They set it up for people to be able to act as monitors. We have monitors. We have several monitors. Joey is obviously one. Chevy Fish is a monitor. We've got 2 or 3 other people who act as monitors.
Or a monster fish scout.
They always act on the positive side of that. In other words, our monitors are not here to assess the whether or not what someone says is appropriate. We assume what you're saying is appropriate. If it's not, it becomes clear very easily. And if that is what you're here to do, to be inappropriate, then you will be blocked from participation on the channel. You won't be able to post at all. We've had that happen 2 or 3 times in the year we've been doing this every day, nearly a year.
So it's a really good group overall. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
We don't run into it. It's not a problem.
Yeah. So
Deal with it.
speaking of,
So
speaking
welcome
of-
to you. Yes.
yes, look, I'm gonna say, can you scroll to 1036? You've got 3 people here that are new and making, nice comments. And Timberlake Homestead said they just shared your link with the Fish Club in Virginia, James River Aquarium Society.
Okay.
That's wonderful. So anyway, 3 people right there that are new and welcome. Maybe they've listened to you, but certainly new in the chat. And welcome today.
Right. Keith Mitchell is just got a wrench.
Yes. And when you come back, you can hopefully go to 1036 and see these guys. And if you could give Fatherfish a thumbs up, we would appreciate it.
Okay, I'm back. I had to pay my window washer.
Yeah, you got to pay the window washer. Yeah. So 1036. The first one it starts with Robert Gorlick, and then you have MFT and Timberlake Homestead, and they're all not blue, so they're new or newish in the chat.
Robert Gorlick.
Yeah, and just nice to have
Robert
you.
is now a moderator.
And MFT.
My fish tanks.
Yeah.
Moderator.
And Timberlake is the one that shared your link with the Fish Club, James River Aquarium. That is
delightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you. Thank you, Timberlake.
And then FL Test says, is there any issue using sand from my own property? Any issues with it? No.
Only you would know that. Typically, no. Unless it's had pesticide or some other dire chemical sprayed on it. So long as it's, doesn't have any toxins in it, it'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. Michael M. Hey, Fatherfish, wanted to give you an update on my ram that was choking on the pebble yesterday.
Yes.
He didn't make it, but he waited all day till I got home from work to pass away. Oh, sorry, Michael. Sorry about
Isn't that
that.
wild?
Yeah.
Huh. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Stephen, the biologist, that says, why do my fish keep dying in my bare bottom, not established tank? Why? Why? Why do they die? I buy them from the store and I bring them home and I put them in my little fish tank. And I love my fish tank. My fish tank is very precious to me. It is wonderful, my fish tank. I take water out of the faucet and I put it in and I put my fish in and they die and they die and they keep dying. And I don't understand. Why do my fish keep dying? Because you're killing them. Stop killing your fish, and then they'll stop dying. That's the rule. You don't want your fish to die. You have to stop killing them. Stephen.
Stephen's just trying to get
I
you
know.
elevated, and it's working.
I know. No.
Poking the bear. No. So Ultramagnetic says, Father Fish, what do you think about EcoComplete? Lucas uses it in many of his fish-heavy tanks with no sand cap and no filter.
I know. I like the look of it. Many of Lucas's tanks are not deep substrate tanks. They are tanks that have a substantial amount of plant life, a very small amount of fish, and are fed extremely sparingly. So, and they've got some kind of filtration, typically a sponge filter. So he's getting away with it, and he's doing it in a way that's stable.
Yeah.
I would consider Lucas a master aquarist, somebody who understands what's going on in this fish tank, is able to sustain a tank over the long haul without substantially impacting it with variation, with change. So he's able to maintain a very stable environment for an extended length of time because he is a minimalist.
Mhm.
And the way he gets away with that is he's got a lot of tanks, so his high energy. And I guess I would not call Lucas high energy in one sense, but in another, he very much is high energy because he has an enormous burden of responsibility for all of those tanks and all of those fish.
Mhm.
But it gets diffused. He gets spread out 1,000 times in 1,000 pieces. So that means a very tiny amount of attention and time is paid to each one of those tanks, adequate to be able to allow them to sustain themselves. And that's the principle. His tanks take care of themselves. He doesn't take care of them. He'll do minimal intervention at certain periods of time in order to make sure that tank is sustaining itself.
Yes.
And he does it in a variety of ways. So, he kind of proves the point that less is better and that it doesn't matter how you do things so long as you do it in a way that's sympathetic with the nature of what's going on in the aquarium.
Can we do one last question? Because we're pushing at 11 o'clock.
Okay, yeah.
And then, so it's Robert Gorlick, and he's asking about the bettas, but he's also asking about black sand. And I know Ultramagnetic said black diamond blasting sand, which you can get at Tractor Supply, and it's around $10 a bag, and it's perfect if you want a black sand. But anyway, so it's breeding bettas, and I want to dirt them. They say not to use media so he can see the eggs. What if I used black sand? And then below he says, will it stick to the eggs too much? And also, so will it stick to the eggs too much? Can he use the black sand? Or can he wants to know if he can put them in, you know, a tank that's set up and not breed them on bare bottom. Because people say they can't find them in the sand.
If you have to find your betta eggs in the sand, there's something wrong.
With the betta.
Because that ain't your job. That's the job of the male betta, to find the eggs and put them in the nest. If you see them down there in the sand, there ain't a thing you can do about that.
Right.
And if you're into siphoning them up and dropping them in the nest, you're nuts. I mean,
no,
you're
I don't think that's what they're asking. They're worried that the betta itself won't be able to find the eggs in the sand. That he won't be able to see them because they say to breed them on a bare bottom tank because he can't see them. He can see.
He can
see them. And they're saying, if I use black sand, would that help him see the eggs? But he can see.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
Yeah, he can see the eggs.
Really, it's not an issue. He can see them better than you can. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean he can't see them. That's his job. He does his job very well.
And I know what you're reading online, and you can do it either way, but they can see those eggs.
The reality is that an aged tank is going to have more microscopic life in it that will support those baby fish when they get to start looking for food. So it's going to work out better for the babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So if you're good there, I guess we can
I'm good there.
Because I think, like I said, I mean, I'm sure there's more questions. I haven't looked. You know there's more. But it's, like I said, we're almost at 11 o'clock. So we may just have to push everybody off till tomorrow. Sorry if it was super, but
see you tomorrow.
Bye,
We'll be here tomorrow. Is Saturday.
Yeah.
Not be here in the morning. We will be here 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Saturday and Sunday, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Feel free to come up to join us. Show us your tanks. Give us a chance to get to know you a little better. It will be family time. Saturday and Sunday is family time. Come join us. Be part of our online, on-face conversation. Yeah.
I like to sing because I have a lag.
We will. We don't now.
I always do. And I look back, my words never match. That's why I don't sing too loud.
Oh, yeah, it can't. I don't think it can.
You're okay. You can sing with it, but when I sing with it, hey, there, my angels.
A second behind. Bye, y'all. God bless you.
Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow night.